Hello, my name's Adam Watson. I'm from Palmer, Alaska. Well, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Lived in Montana the last 7 years, and my wife and I, Christina, who's filming this, we moved up to Palmer back in January. So this is kind of going to be a hillbilly video, but I'll do the best I can. I put together a lot of information I think that'll be very useful for you guys. We drove up the Alaska Highway several times, and most recently last week we drove up during this COVID-19 stuff. Now, first of all, I'll go ahead and put a disclaimer out there. I don't really use masks, and I think COVID-19 is a built-up joke, but so that might discredit the whole video to you guys. So anyhow, I'll put that out there. So I'm very much a mask rebel and very much don't care about COVID-19. But however, I am one of the guys that went in Rome, do like the Romans, so I do respect Canada's rules. Let's talk about getting into Canada. So my mom, first of all, I called the number, the main Canadian Border Patrol number, and like a month prior, and said, hey, my mom would like to go up with us. She lives in Alabama. She's going to fly to Montana, meet us, help us load our trailer because we're moving the rest of our stuff up here to Alaska. We moved up here in January, planning on moving our stuff in March, and then COVID hit, so we waited till right now to do it. Today's currently 9/12. So anyway, we moved all this stuff up here. Most recently, we finished the rest of our move. Well, with that being said, my mom wanted to help us load our stuff into our trailer, and she wanted to see the beautiful drive through Canada and wanted to come up here. So I called the number. Oh yeah, it's no problem. Your mom's fine as long as you can prove why you're going to Alaska. That Alaska's truly your destination. Well, they almost didn't let my mom in because my mom was not a resident of Alaska and had really no legal need of being in Alaska. She could have just easily flown to Alaska. So take our advice. I've researched this stuff for hours. I called the number, and thank God I saved a screenshot of that. I did everything I could. They almost did not admit my mom. If you're coming up to Alaska during this COVID through Canada, make sure, for us, we have, my wife and I, Christina and I, we have Alaska driver's license. So that is perfect. It shows proof. That was good enough. That's all they needed from us. Our license was good enough. But have all the proof you can. We had copies of utility bills. We had copies of our insurance card, everything. So what we did is we bought a vehicle and a trailer to come up to Alaska to finish our move, and then we're just going to sell the vehicle and the trailer. So we had everything in our name, everything with our Alaska address, the whole 9 yards. We truly were legit and truly doing the right thing. Make sure you have just overkill it. Have all the paperwork you can. That one screenshot of me talking to Manitoba about coming up here with my mom is what let my mom get admitted in. Thank God the guy had some mercy. You're at the mercy of the gate agent. We crossed in Coots or Couts, however you would say it, Alberta. And I'm gonna go over our route here in a minute. We've done a couple different things, but I'll go over that during COVID, what I recommend. Anyway, make sure you have all the paperwork you can as to why you're coming to Alaska. You cannot come up here just to joyride around or just go hunting. You got to either be moving up here or be an Alaska resident. If you're not, don't even attempt it. They're very strict. Once you go across the border, as soon as you cross, it'll take about an hour to go through all their stuff. Once you cross over, you're going to have another little, like an EMS or a paramedic type checkpoint. They're going to check your temperatures, everybody's temperatures inside the car. They're gonna get your phone numbers. They're gonna ask you the whole COVID questions and all that great stuff. And then after that, you won't hear anything else until you get to Watson Lake, which is in the Yukon. When you get to Watson Lake, you're going to go through another checkpoint. So there's a lot of misconceptions out here online. That's why I want to do my own video. I know this is kind of a crazy video, but once you get to Watson Lake, once you come to that Yukon territory, or the province, so for us it'd be like the state of Yukon, you're going to come in and you have 24 hours from Watson Lake to leave the country of Alaska. More than enough time. It's more than enough time you can relax in that amount of time. There's a lot of things online. You got 24 hours to get across Canada. That's not true. When you come into Watson Lake, they're going to go through a whole series of questions with you. They're going to, they didn't check our temperature there. They're just going to ask you a bunch of different things. As far as in Canada, to be honest with you, the Canadians are my kind of people. They're super easy to deal with, but they're kind of like screw the mask just like I am. There was no one wearing masks. There was not even a sign about wearing masks. It was like business as usual. We went through just most recently in January, and everything was normal. So it was the same as if we came through in January. So that part I loved. Anyhow, with that being said, just make sure you stay on the routes. Then when you come into Whitehorse, so you're going to have a checkpoint in Watson Lake, you're going to have another checkpoint in Whitehorse you have to check in. Whitehorse is an amazing town. It's in a town that was our favorite town our entire trip in January. However, I don't recommend pushing the envelope. The Canadians are not like the Americans. They're not playing around with this whole COVID thing. The government itself takes it super serious. The hotels that they're allowing us Americans to stay at are horrific. I wouldn't even worry about staying there. That's just my 2 cents. It's like 2 that they're allowing that are right there on the Alaska Highway. We kind of saw them as we went by. I do not recommend stopping at all in Whitehorse other than for the checkpoint and fuel. All right, so now I'm going to go through everything. This is going to be kind of a longer video, but anyhow, I think it's a lot of good information that, thank God I lived in Montana the last 7 years, so I was halfway prepared, but it's a lot of good information. If you're moving up here for the military or whatever reason, you've never been out west or you've never went anywhere really rural like this, it's things you need to know. First thing I want to recommend is prepare your vehicle. First and foremost, from October 1st to May, you have to have winter tires. It's an absolute it's a legal requirement to be on the Alaska Highway. You have to have winter tires. I recommend studded tires, and I recommend very good shape tires. Christina and I have witnessed some accidents out there, and every one of them, had they had winter tires, the accidents wouldn't have occurred. So I highly recommend the tires. Extra gas cans, that's a must. You're going to see every car from a Toyota Corolla to a Subaru Outback to a Ford Expedition to a Ford F-150. You're going to see gas cans mounted on the roof. My mom got a kick out of that. So I recommend no less than 15 gallons. So 3 5-gallon cans. I'll be honest with you, this is what we do. We do the 5-gallon can. You can get this pump right here. Now my friends mess with me because they say I should be at the gym working out, but anyhow, this little pump for 20 bucks is absolutely perfect on Amazon. I recommend bringing your own pump. We flew down with a lot of this stuff, and it still worked. Not the gas can, but it still worked. You want a minimum of 15 gallons of gas. I'll go into that in a second. Serpentine belt. I recommend having your serpentine belt changed out, regardless if it needs it or not. Keep the extra. That's something that you can't have too much of. Have the tools that you need to replace that. Normally it's just simply a ratchet. Have an extra air machine. This is what we had. I would get a clean air filter and spark plugs. We learned the hard way. We bought a vehicle to come up here, and we burn out 2 spark plugs about 120 miles south of Fort Nelson, British Columbia. I'm going to go into that here in a minute. So I recommend having those changed regardless if you need it or not. You can't go wrong, especially when you're making a drive like this, because there's not a lot of help out there. Fuel filters, bring your tire plugs to plug a tire if you need to. You'll have the pump to blow it up. We brought extra fuses. Check your spare. Make sure your spare tire is good. Make sure it's blown up, because there's a good chance you're going to need your spare tire. And if you're pulling a trailer, I would recommend having a spare for that. If you have the U-Haul trailer like we did the first time, you just better pray, because there is no spare. Last time we drove our own trailer up and we did have a spare tire. Windshield wipers. I recommend getting some good new windshield wipers. You're going to need them whether it be rain or ice. My wife and I are huge into the Rain X de-icer. Put that in put that into your reservoir for the windshield wiper fluid. Spare key. I think it's good for both of you to have a key if it's husband and wife coming up. You can't go wrong because you're literally in the middle of nowhere. Jumper cables. In the winter, when it starts getting dark, which even right now it's starting to get dark, and we're just now in the beginning of September, have your own LED light bar. So what I did is I had mine mounted on 2 magnets. This last time I just flew down with all this stuff, and I bought this vehicle and I mounted everything, and up to Alaska we went. Have your I recommend mounting the light bar however you want. If you don't already have one and you're looking for something portable, there's some things on Amazon. I'm going to put some pictures at the end of the video that are literally just 2 magnet mount LED light bar holders. Super perfect. I bought the wiring kit off Amazon, and I put a cigarette lighter attachment to it, so it just plugged in my cigarette lighter. Super temporary. I'll put pictures at the end. You need some type of extra lighting. It gets very dark. Your headlights are not good enough. Trust me on this. It could save you from striking a moose. Bring some source of heat. So what I recommend is either a propane stove or a propane heater. Have some source of heat. You want to, in your mind, put in your mind that you've just hit a moose. You've damaged your radiator. Your car won't run. It could be 2 to 3 days if the weather's bad for somebody comes to get to you. Make sure that you put some source of heat that you could stay in your car. We witnessed this coming up in January. A gentleman wrecked his truck, his trailer, everything. Anyway, we witnessed a lot of wrecks like that. Make sure you can withstand -30, -40 temperatures with some type of heat. Bring warm clothes, survival blankets. You can't have enough of these things. You can make shelters out of them. You can use them. Good sleeping bag. I recommend a good sleeping bag for every occupant inside the vehicle. Plenty of food. We found these camping meals to be pretty good, and we actually, this will be your best friend. Some kind of electric thing to heat up some water if you get to a place that don't have a lot of food, and I'll go over that in a little bit. Make sure that you can have some way of heating up your meals. I super recommend, I cannot recommend, if you're moving to Alaska, you're going to need one anyway. I promise you, I'm in aviation, but it don't matter what you're involved in, you're going to need a Garmin Inreach. It's probably the cheapest way to communicate instead of getting like a satellite phone. There's going to be about 2 days worth of travel on there where you're not going to have much cell phone service. A Garmin Inreach, sign up. You can do $10 a month for very limited messaging or $50 for unlimited. About every Alaskan I know has a Garmin Inreach of some sort. Well, everybody I know is in aviation, so of course they do. But anyhow, I highly recommend the Garmin Inreach. It's well worth it. You can text people. Go ahead and let them know what you're doing so you can stay in contact with people. Let's see, what else we're going to need. We're going to need plenty of food. In your mind, be ready to withstand 3 days on the road. 3 days without getting service, without getting help, and have one of these two. Hopefully it won't be that long, and I'm sure it won't, but just in case. Have some type of cold medicine because there's not a lot on the road. And for defense, I recommend bear spray. You know, Canada's really, I mean, I'm an American, so Canada's to me is weird about weapons. So I recommend bear spray. It's a defense item that you can have that's legal. Pick up the Milepost magazine, and first and foremost, this is the coolest road trip in the world. I mean, I've been blessed. I've driven all 49 states now, all through Canada, and there's not a cooler route to drive than from Montana to Alaska. It's an amazing trip. Stop at the Dawson Creek Visitor Center. Those people up there are absolutely amazing. We've been up there a couple of times now, and you got to get a picture in front of the Dawson Creek Mile Zero sign. I'll try to attach some pictures at the end of the video. It's super cool. To me, the trip has a lot of novelty to it. Now let's talk about the drive. What I recommend when things are normal without COVID-19, I recommend having a good time in Calgary the first night, making that your first night stop on getting to Alaska, so to speak, whatever you got to do to get to that point. With all this COVID-19 stuff, what we did this last time is we stopped at Best Western Shelby, Montana. And these people are not paying me to do the video or anything, but I highly endorse them. They're a very nice hotel. That's what we did. We want to limit our amount of time in Canada, and that's actually what they want to see us do. And by the way, they give you 5 days to get across Canada. They say a reasonable amount of time. They gave us 5 days, which is more than enough. We got out with 2 days to spare. And they want us the hell out of there. They don't want us sticking around. So I recommend the Best Western in Shelby, Montana, to get up early. And I highly recommend starting your days early, because if something goes wrong on the trip, you're early enough where things are still open. You're getting there where things are still open for you. You're ending your day. So I recommend planning your meals out, doing breakfast wherever you start, doing your lunch on the road with your own food, whether it be this or just some sandwiches. Last time we just brought sandwiches. Make sure you just plan your own lunch in your car. Have that food with you. And in the evening, everything I'm going to tell you, you can end with a meal. Buying a meal out. So the second night, I recommend the Grand Prairie, Alberta, or they call it Grande Prairie, however you want to say it. I hear everybody call it Grand there, but it's actually spelled Grande Prairie. We always stay at the Hampton Inn. The Hampton Inn's never done us wrong. It's an amazing hotel. If you stay there, I recommend going to Brown's Social House. You can Google it on your Google app. You literally can walk there. We walked there last time. It's perfect. You can go over there and have a couple of beers, and they were very welcome to us. That's probably the only Canadian rule that we violated, if anything, but we looked at our paper. It didn't say anything about not going to restaurants. We didn't have a lot of information on that, so we asked the lady at the hotel. She said, yep, Brown's open. We went there. So, yep, we're open. Everything was perfect. So we went to Brown's Social House. Didn't have to wear a mask. Everything was just like business as normal. They had a couple of tables spread out. We went there, ate, had a good time. That's a really good meal for a reasonable price. You can have a couple of drinks, and the cool thing about staying at the Hampton, you're walking distance. You don't have to worry about drinking or driving. The third night, if you don't take nothing out of this video, I recommend this third night be in the Northern Rockies Lodge in Mucho Lake. Incredible place. We've stayed there every time we go up the road. I'll stay there every other time. They've doing a little goofy thing since COVID started. They're only allowing you to eat in their restaurant if you do a meal plan. We did the meal plan this last time. It's pretty pricey. It's 75 Canadian dollars a piece. I do not recommend it, to be quite honest with you. We didn't get our money's worth out of that. That does include breakfast. Their food is really good. You can get it to go. I recommend having breakfast at the Northern Rockies Lodge for sure. Northern Rockies Lodge will give you 30 cents off, 30 cents Canadian off a gallon for gas. And I do recommend, so here's what I recommend doing. So I've already recommended you take a minimum of 15 gallons up. And I'm going to go over this again. I'm going to pound this in twice. I highly recommend using your own gas here to fill up. If it don't fill you all the way up, top off at Northern Rockies Lodge using your discount. And then I'm going to go over gas again in a little bit. Your fourth night. Normally I would recommend Whitehorse. It's a really cool town. During this COVID stuff where they don't want us Americans in Whitehorse, we're only allowed the select few. We chose Haynes Junction, which I recommend that. We stayed at the Stardust. I did reach out to the Cozy Corner Motel, which that lady was super cool. She definitely takes people going to Alaska. If I had to do it with, I'd probably try Cozy Corner, but I would stay at the Stardust again too. My mom called it the Bates Hotel. You know, I never seen the show The Bates Motel, but it sounds like it's a horror movie or whatever. It's not a 5-star hotel. I mean, my wife and I are diamond members at the Hilton, so we like nice hotels, but it was clean, it was adequate, and when you're tired of driving, it's perfect. The Stardust did its job. It's the quietest place I've been yet. Haynes Junction is an amazing place to stay. It's very safe. I would try Cozy Corner next time. Either one, you can't go wrong. We booked Stardust on hotels.com. I would stay there again. Now let's talk about the road conditions from Haynes Junction to Tok. Don't let the miles deceive you. That is the roughest roads, I can assure you, that you've ever driven on in your entire life. And I'm telling you, take your time. Do not go fast. From when you leave Haynes Junction, oh my God, it is horrific roads. It's way better in the wintertime if the snow is already on the road. Right now, when the snow's not on the road, it's not so great. Let's talk about fuel stops. First of all, I recommend getting the Gas Buddy app. All right, so get fuel as you need all the way to Grand Prairie. It's just like anything else in the lower 48. All the way to Grand Prairie is cool. When you get to Grand Prairie, the Costco. If you're going to use a credit card, make sure it's a MasterCard. If not, you can use your debit card. That's all they accept at the Costco. The Costco is going to be by far the cheapest fuel stop in Canada for the whole route. I recommend, this is what's crazy, and a lot of people, the people that are watching this video that like to run their car to leave, this is not the trip to do that on. I recommend topping off again in Dawson Creek, and then going to the Dawson Creek Visitor Center like we talked about. Top off in Fort St. John. I like to stop at Tim Hortons. It's a good place to get coffee and donuts. And then you're going to see another fuel stop about 180. It's going to say, you're going to see a sign. When you get up the road a couple hours, you're going to see a sign that says next fuel stop 179 or 171 or 180 kilometers, whatever it may be, something like that. There's a place on the left. We've gotten fuel there twice. I recommend that. If you have any car problems, we had car problems going up. We had those 2 spark plugs that burned completely out on us. I recommend in Fort Nelson, there's a place called Integrity Automotive, and it's right next to the Napa Auto Parts if you were to need parts. There's Alex and Colin down there. I cannot endorse those guys enough. Those 2 guys were absolutely angels to us. They were life-saving. So I recommend stopping there. And, of course, you want to fill up with gas in Fort Nelson. Anyhow, at Northern Rockies, use your own gas, like I said. Fill up with your own gas. Recommending using the $20 pump that I had. Fill up with your own gas. And then as you're driving, you'll have, and then make sure you're topped off with theirs if you don't have enough to top off. When you drive, there's a coolest little, I call it truck stop, whatever you want to call it. I passed this a couple of times because she says cheapest gas, cheaper than Watson Lake, and I thought, yeah, right, because it looks like a little hole in the wall. It's on the left, but 40 miles prior to Watson Lake, right before you get into Contact Creek, you're going to see this little hole in the wall on the left, and it's called the Contact Creek Lodge, and it's a cool lady that owns this place. We bought patches and we bought stickers and all this cool stuff. Really cool place. It's like you're back in the 70s again. I highly recommend stopping there. She does have the cheapest gas. She's not BSing you on the sign. And that's where I refilled my fuel tank, my gas cans from. I highly cannot endorse her enough. And then if you want, you can top off in Watson Lake, depending on if you're pulling a trailer or not pulling a trailer. And then Teslin will be your next fill up, and then Whitehorse will be your next fill up, and then Haynes Junction. When you get to Beaver Creek, that's like and I wanted to back up, so the Northern Rockies Lodge is like $5.15 a gallon. When you get to Beaver Creek, it's probably $5.50 a gallon. Finish using the rest of your fuel that you already had on your roof. Remember, or wherever you keep your fuel. Remember, that gas is for emergency purposes, but I'm telling you when to use it where it's not going to become an emergency. So, So anyhow, when you get to Beaver Creek, that's where you'll fill up with your extra gas cans, top off, and then that's good all the way to Tok. At Tok, of course, I can't endorse Three Bears, Alaska enough. Top off at Shell Station Three Rivers. When you get to Tok, Fast Eddie's is cool. We retired. We went up the last couple times we went up. We just stayed at. We live here in Palmer, Alaska. So if you look at the miles, it's like 679 or even less than that. I think it's like only like 5 something actually from Haynes Junction. I think it's like 679 from Whitehorse to get back to here. We stayed in Tok. We were exhausted. That road will beat you to death. You're going to average about 40, 45 miles an hour from Haynes Junction all the way to Tok. The road is just horrific. I hope these tips helped. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. My email address is easy to remember. It's bigskyblessing@gmail.com. Again, bigskyblessing@gmail.com. My name's Adam Watson. I love to help. I'm going to be doing this run again probably in about 6 weeks. I'm going to run back down and probably grab another Subaru Outback and maybe another enclosed trailer to bring back up here to sell and keep the Subaru. But if you have any questions or anything you need to know about this trip, I feel like we got a pretty good handle on it. I'd love to help you out. Shoot me an email. I'd love to help. That's pretty all I got. I can't stress enough how important how enjoyable this trip is, but how important it is to prepare. So I hope these tips helped. And don't stress about going across the border, but do make sure you have your credentials, whether it be for your Alaska residents. If you're Alaska residents, you probably already know all this stuff, but if you're just moving to Alaska, make sure you have proof to prove to those officials that you need to get to Alaska, whether it be you're moving there. You either have to be moving there or that has to be your primary residence. So make sure you can prove that to to the Canadian officials. Other than that, I hope these tips helped. If I can help in any way, shoot me an email. We'll talk to you later. Have a good day.